studiu kujawsko-pomorskiej e-Szkoły witamy pana Macieja Doksę, z którym szczerze żałujemy, że ta sceneria wewnątrz naszej szkoły nie przypomina tej na zewnątrz, bo z tego, co sobie na backstage'u porozmawialiśmy, to oboje bardzo lubujemy się w takich klimatach. Czy o takich klimatach również dzisiaj podczas pierwszej lekcji pańskiej?
Niestety nie. Dzisiaj będziemy rozmawiać o podróży samolotem. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear students. Today we are going to talk about traveling by air, traveling by plane, about going through the airport and doing some things that we need to do there. So, first of all, let's talk about the airport, the names that are used for what we know as lotnisko. So you can say the airport or you can say the air terminal. This is more or less the same thing, czyli port lotniczy. Jest to lotnisko takie służące do obsługi regularnego ruchu pasażerskiego. Airport, air terminal. However, there is one more word in English which can also be translated into Polish as lotnisko, airfield. What's the difference between airfield and airport or air terminal? Well, airfield is basically a place where planes can land and where they can take off, where they can be, parked, let's say, where they can be serviced, refueled, but there is no terminal there. I mean, there is no building with passengers, there are no regular passenger flights. For example, here in Toruń we have an airfield. We call it lotnisko, but it's not like the one, for example, in Warsaw or Gdańsk that you would use for normal passenger flights. So airfield to jest lotnisko w sensie jako tylko sama płyta lotniska, na której samoloty mogą lądować, startować, ale bez regularnej obsługi ruchu pasażerskiego. An important part of the airport is the runway, which is also called the landing strip. What is it? Well, basically this is this very long and spacious area which the planes use to land and to take off. This is called runway, or it can also be called a landing strip. To jest pas startowy. All right, now let's get into the airport, the air terminal building. What kind of places can we find there? Well, a very important place is the departure lounge. What is the departure lounge? Well, first of all, let me explain what the word lounge means. Lounge basically is a place, usually large or very large room, where people can stay, sit, wait, relax, have some conversation. There are usually some seats for the people to use, to sit. Departure is the act of going away by public transport, czyli odjazd, odlot. In this case, because we are talking about air travel, departure means odlot. So, what is the departure lounge? Hala odlotów is this place that passengers departing or flying away use before the flight. So this is the place where they wait, this is the place where they just stay or have some food and things like that. Another important place is the arrivals hall. Arrivals hall is the place where people who have just landed go in first. Usually the departure lounge and the arrivals halls are separated. Why? Well, because of the passport checks, because of the customs checks, some kind of, control procedures. So these two places can be separated. So the departure lounge, as I said, let me say this again, is hala odlotów, arrivals hall, hala przylotów. An important part of every airport, especially the big ones, is the duty-free zone, which is usually full of duty-free shops. What is duty-free? Well, duty is this kind of fee, opłata, that you have to pay for certain goods. It's a kind of tax. In Polish we call it cło. So, at the airport, it is possible, if you are flying away, it is possible to buy some products without this tax, without the duty tax, which makes the products cheaper. Especially things like alcohol, cigarettes, perfumes, electronics, clothes. So these are the things that people usually buy there. Czyli po polsku jest to strefa wolnocłowa lub też sklep wolnocłowy. So you don't have to pay any duty on the goods. An important element of the airport is also the control tower, which is like the control center of the entire airport. They control the incoming flights, the outbound flights, the all traffic control around the airport, what's happening on the runway. This is the heart of the airport. All right, now what are the actions, the activities that people, passengers do when they want to use the air terminal to fly somewhere? Well, first of all, they have to go to the place called check-in desk. What is a check-in desk? Check-in desk is this kind of place, a desk usually, with some kind of clerk behind it, where passengers go first. They show, usually nowadays they show tickets which they have printed from the internet at home if they book the ticket on the internet, or they just show some code on their smartphone proving that they have bought the ticket. And there the ticket is processed. They can check in their luggage for the cargo. They can also receive the so-called boarding pass, karta pokładowa, which allows them to go on board the plane. So basically we say that you check in. Check in, odprawić się, check-in desk, stanowisko odprawy. Then you go through passport control, where they of course check your passports if you are flying to another country. Because if you're flying within your own country or within one country, there's no need to check the passport, I believe. So when you're flying abroad, then you go through passport control. And you also have to go through customs. What is customs? Customs is this kind of place or office at the airport where special officers, which are called customs officers, check the things that you are carrying, that you have with you. So they check whether you have some illegal items, whether you are carrying illegal substances like drugs, like illegal alcohol or cigarettes, or endangered animals, for example, or food products which are not allowed, and so on and so on. So basically they will check the things that you're carrying. Customs, po polsku, kontrola celna. Very often, I think nowadays always, not very often, you have to go through a scanner. You have to pass your things through a scanner, but also you have to go through this metal detector gate, which checks whether you're not carrying some metal objects that might be dangerous for the passengers. Nowadays, we are living in times of terrorism, so these kind of measures are, by no means excessive, I would say. You just have to go through it. Now, when you are carrying some things with you, some goods, towary, and you know that you have to pay some tax, a duty, to carry them, then you have to declare these goods. Declare some goods, declare some things, items, means zgłosić rzeczy do oclenia. So you have to say to the customs officer, hey, I'm carrying this. And then they will tell you if it's legal, but also they will tell you how much tax, duty tax you have to pay to carry these goods. If you don't do it, if you don't declare the goods and they catch you carrying it, then you will have to pay the tax, plus you will have to pay a fine, a penalty, czyli karę grzywny, or you may also have some legal problems. If you are really not carrying any things, goods, items that would have to be to declare, well, you just say, I have nothing to declare, and usually there is a special passage or gate for people who have nothing to declare, czyli nic do oclenia. All right, now let's talk about the flights. What can happen with the flight? Well, there are at least three major things that can happen to the flight. First of all, the flight can be cancelled, czyli odwołany. If there is extremely bad weather, or if there are some technical problems, or there are any other problems that make it impossible for the plane to fly, the flight can be cancelled. Cancelled, czyli odwołany. Also, for the same reasons, a flight can be delayed, czyli opóźniony. Now, when you are at the departure lounge and you're waiting for the flight, you are waiting, first of all, for your flight to be announced. So they will announce your flight. For example, flight British Airways 768 flying to New York, now boarding. Czyli teraz wchodzimy na pokład. So the flight is announced. Lot jest ogłoszony, w sensie procedura wchodzenia na pokład jest ogłoszona. So I was waiting at the departure lounge, and when my flight was announced, I proceeded to gate number 7. And this is called flight announcement, czyli komunikat o odlocie, o locie. All right, so what do we do when we are at the airport and we are going to fly a plane? Well, when you, as I said, when you hear the flight announcement, they will usually tell you that a flight number this or that is now boarding, which means teraz wchodzimy na pokład. Board to jest pokład, ale też wchodzić na pokład. And almost always you will hear the words passengers flying to, for example, New York, yes, British flights, BA 757, please proceed to gate number 7. Proceed means to go. To jest proszę o przejście. Takie formalne słówko, które w zasadzie znaczy to samo co go, ale jest po prostu ładniejsze, bardziej formalne, więc na lotnisku go używają, bo to zawsze ładniej brzmi. So please proceed to gate number 7. Of course, gate number 7, czyli jakaś tam bramka, za którą jest rękaw, zazwyczaj, choć nie zawsze, którym wchodzimy do samolotu. And when you go to the appropriate gate, yes, the person who is standing at the gate, usually representing the airline, will check your tickets, or exactly they will check your boarding pass, which is karta pokładowa. Boarding pass, if you have the boarding pass, it means that you have gone through all the procedures, the check-in, the passport control, the customs control, and then if the boarding pass is okay, the ticket is okay, you can board the plane. Board the plane, wejść na pokład. Tak jak powiedziałem, board jest czasownikiem, który oznacza wejść na pokład, ale również board jest rzeczownikiem, to jest pokład. Another word for boarding the plane is to embark. Embark to też jest wsiąść, wsiąść na pokład. Z tym, że przy słówku board, przy czasowniku board, on jest przechodni, co oznacza, że potrzebuje dopełnienia, czyli trzeba powiedzieć board the plane, tak, wejść na pokład samolotu. Natomiast przy embark raczej się nie używa żadnego dopełnienia, so we just embarked. After embarking, you don't have to use the word plane. A very important thing that you have to have in your mind all the time and be careful about it is the boarding time, czyli czas wsiadania do samolotu. Because if you miss your boarding flight, you will not be able to fly. Now, when you enter the plane, what do you do? Well, the natural thing is to take your seat, czyli zająć miejsce. When you take your seat, of course, there are some procedures like safety announcements, some announcement from the captain, and then the plane takes off. Take off to jest startować, o samolocie. You have to be careful because a frequent mistake is that people say start, the plane started. We don't say that the plane started, we say the plane took off. And then when the plane takes off, it's going higher, higher and higher and higher until the plane reaches a certain height. We call it also altitude, altitude, czyli wysokość, so-called cruising altitude, czyli wysokość przelotowa. And cruise to jest, no właśnie, o samolocie lecieć na tej wysokości przelotowej, tak, jakby szybować na ustalonej wysokości. Basically, when the plane flies, there are three stages of the flight. There is the takeoff, when the plane goes up. Then there is the cruise, so the plane goes more or less at the same height for a longer time. And then there is, you know, the landing stage. All right, now what are the things inside the plane and things that we can do? Well, the seats. As I said, we enter the plane, we board the plane, and we take a seat. In most planes, there are at least three types of seats. There is an aisle seat. What is an aisle seat? Well, in the plane, you basically have on the left side, you have 2 or 3 or 4 rows of seats, and on the right side, you also have 2, 3, 4 rows of seats. Between those seats, we have this little corridor, which we can use to walk to the toilets, which the flight attendants use. This is called an aisle. Aisle to jest przejście między siedzeniami. Po prostu przejście, tak? Ale trzeba pamiętać, że chodzi o przejście między siedzeniami, między rzędami siedzeń. So aisle seat to jest siedzenie z brzegu przy przejściu. Window seat, well, I don't think I have to explain this. Of course, this is the seat by the window. And of course, there are also the middle seats, which are between the aisle seat and the window seat. Well, most people prefer the window seats because they can watch the world down below. But some people also like the aisle seat because you have a little bit more space for the legs. Now, when you take a seat, you can also, to feel more comfortable, you can also push back the seat. Push back, czyli odchylić do tyłu. Sometimes it can be a reason of some disagreements between passengers, but generally most people do it, especially on the long-haul flights, long-distance flights, because sitting is in one position, it's tiring, so you can push back the seat. Also, during the flight attendants, I mean stewards and stewardesses, they will walk along this aisle, pushing a trolley, czyli ten taki wózek bufetowy, a buffet trolley, let's call it buffet trolley, and they sell or give or sell some refreshments. Refreshments to są przekąski, so some drinks, something sweet, some sandwiches, you know, some little things to eat. So generally you can have some refreshments. Of course, on longer flights, especially on, you know, more expensive flights, I mean by business class or first class, the passengers are given dinner, meals. Also, when you board the plane, you usually have something that we call hand luggage with you. So what do you do with this hand luggage? Well, of course, you don't keep it on your lap, on your seat or under the seat. You have to put it somewhere. Where do you put it? You put it in a place which is above your head, and it's called overhead locker or overhead bin. There are two names for it, overhead locker or overhead bin, czyli to jest ten taki schowek na bagaż podręczny, ten, który znajduje się nad głową. Also, the thing that hopefully he will never have to use, but it's there, is the life vest. Life vest, czyli, or life jacket. You can also call it life jacket or life vest. There are different names. To jest kamizelka ratunkowa. All right, what else do you do during the flight? Well, when you take your seat, before the plane takes off, so before the takeoff, you have to fasten your seat belt, czyli zapiąć pas. Of course, when the plane reaches the cruise altitude, when the takeoff is over, you can unfasten your seat belt, czyli rozpiąć pas bezpieczeństwa. Of course, we said that the plane takes off and then the plane lands. When the plane lands, what do you do? Well, you get off the plane, wysiąść z samolotu, or you say you disembark. Mieliśmy słówko embark, wsiadać na pokład, disembark, wysiadać. So you can disembark. And then, of course, you go to the airport, to the air terminal, to the arrivals hall, and there you usually, not always, but usually go for the baggage reclaim. What is baggage reclaim? Baggage reclaim is this place where your baggage, your suitcases, baggage or luggage, there are two names, they go around on a special, it's called conveyor belt, czyli taka taśma, taki pas transmisyjny, and you can take your luggage from this place. In English we say that you claim your luggage or claim your baggage. To jest po prostu zabrać swój bagaż, odzyskać bagaż, tak? Wziąć swój bagaż. Another interesting thing that can happen to you after a long distance flight, east-west or west-east, is the jet lag. What is a jet lag? Well, if you're flying long distance, east-west or west-east, you are crossing the time zones. So, for example, if you fly from Warsaw to New York, you will cross, I believe, 6 time zones, something like that, or more. Which means when you land, there will be time difference of a couple of hours, let's say 6 hours. But your body is still working according to its natural clock. And this natural clock is adapted to the Polish time. So, for a few days in America after landing, your body will be still having some problems adjusting to the new time. So you will feel sleepy, tired, maybe nervous, maybe weak. This is called the jet lag. What is interesting, in the Polish language, there isn't really one word for it. Very often we use the English expression, jet lag, or we have to describe it. Uczucie zmęczenia spowodowane długim lotem I zmianą stref czasowych. This is a jet lag. All right. There are also some other words describing what's going on with the air travel. So, when you fly a plane, you don't just fly a private plane, you know. Well, sometimes you can if you're rich, but usually you use a special organization that runs this, you know, flying business. And this organization is called an airline or a carrier. Airline, linia lotnicza, carrier, przewoźnik. This is more or less the same thing. It's just two different words. There are different types of airlines, there are different types of carriers. The cheapest ones are called budget airlines, which means yeah, you're flying on budget, which means you're flying cheaply. The tickets are cheap. On the other end of this spectrum, we have the business class. Of course, the business class are usually run by, not by the budget airlines, but by the national airlines, the big ones. You have the first class, which is cheaper than business class, but still it's more comfortable than the budget or economy class, czyli to jest już klasa tak zwana właśnie economy, klasa ekonomiczna, czy też tania, w taniej klasie. So when you fly a budget airline, you almost always fly a budget or economy class. This is just obvious. And the last word, I believe you know them, but I just put it just in case. The people who fly are called passengers. That's sure. Okay, now what are the names of people who are involved in the air travel? Of course, passenger is the person who uses the whole business, but there are also people who work there. Customs officer. We have already said that customs means kontrola celna, urząd celny, so customs officer to jest po prostu celnik. Border guard. Border guard is the person, also some kind of officer who checks at the airport, checks the passports and makes sure that no illegal people get in or out of the country, or they do it illegally. We also have baggage handlers. Baggage handlers to są bagażowi, czy też osoby obsługujące bagaż, zajmujące się obsługą bagażu. We call them baggage handlers. We also have the check-in clerk, czyli osobę na stanowisku odprawy. We also have some customer service, czyli obsługę klienta. So there are people who will help you if you have some problems. So, passengers or customers. So there is some customer service for sure. Inside the plane, of course, you have the pilots, but there are also people who work in the cabin, who work directly with the passengers. They're called cabin crew, po polsku personel pokładowy. And this cabin crew usually consists of, well, almost always, not usually, consists of flight attendants. Flight attendant, czyli steward, stewardessa. Of course, you can still use the words steward or stewardess, but nowadays, in the times of the political correctness, there is a tendency to use words which are the same for both genders, for both sexes. So flight attendant means both steward and stewardess. All right, thank you very much. I think this brief lesson about air travel has given you some knowledge about what's going on at the airport, and especially what English vocabulary is involved in the air travel. So maybe next time you fly to a foreign country or in a foreign country or from a foreign country, you will be able to communicate at the airport much better in English. So thank you very much, and already I can say please join us for the next lesson. We will be talking about the rail travel, so something similar. Thank you very much and goodbye.